Anthony Lolli, investor, developer, entrepreneur. Son to Nicholas and Gladys Lolli. His father, Nicholas, was the youngest of 5 siblings whose family immigrated from Bologna, Italy. He lied about his age at 17 to enlist in the Navy and found himself at the tail end of World War II. He then went to college on the GI Bill and later became a public school teacher. He fathered his first and only child, Anthony, in 1977 at the age of 50. When Anthony was 5 years old, his father began moonlighting as a street entertainer and doing what came to be known by the locals as photo with the parrot. This is where Anthony began to learn business principles and help form his view about earning money. Gladys Lolli left Ecuador for the U.S. in 1967 with $40 in her pocket, and $20 of that went to pay off the customs officer to stamp her visa when she arrived. She knew no one and found herself living in an abandoned building with other immigrants from all over South America. She lived a hard life working in a variety of sweatshops. After making a few friends in the sweatshop, she was referred to someone who helped her become a home attendant, which would eventually help her put herself through beauty school. She worked for an elderly lady named Mrs. Zappi. Mrs. Zappi took Gladys underneath her wing and instilled life lessons and showed her how she raised her 5 boys, of which 2 became doctors, 2 lawyers, and 1 a college professor. Years later, as fate would have it, Nicholas would take a part-time job during his time off in the summer as an insurance broker down the block from a popular bar in Sunset Park, where he became friends with the person that would eventually introduce him to his future wife, Gladys. Even though during his adolescent years, Anthony and his parents lived in a 1-bedroom shack, he wasn't aware of the lack that his family had. The love and support he was given made him feel they had all they needed, until the age of 6, when Anthony and his mother would make frequent stops at high-end retail stores, such as Saks Fifth Avenue and Bloomingdale's, where Gladys would try on clothing and perfume but could never actually afford to purchase anything. On one of these trips, Anthony saw a waterproof watch that he really wanted, and pestered his mother about buying it for him, and he asked her, "Why won't you buy this for me?" And Gladys, with tears in her eyes, decided to tell him the truth. She simply said, "Because we can't afford it." Young Anthony responded with, "Well, one day I'm going to make us rich, and we'll be able to afford anything, and we're going to live in a white mansion, and you'll have a white limousine with a chauffeur, and we'll take it to the nicest places." Gladys would later tell Anthony that she didn't want the white limousine, but did still want the white mansion.
Up next, see how Anthony got his start in real estate, how he set his goals, and how he learned the business. From being the top salesperson to running an office and ultimately opening his own business that later became one of the most successful companies in New York City. Anthony first became interested in real estate when he witnessed his friend's father get a salesperson's license and begin making money right away. He recalls saying to himself, "If he can do it, why can't I?" And that's exactly what he did. At the age of 19, he enrolled in a real estate school and began attending classes. Anthony tells a story often about what he was thinking while he was sitting in the classroom. To him, it made no sense that the instructor of the school was talking about how much money can be made in real estate, and yet he was not working in real estate himself. Instead, he was teaching a class. So he asked the instructor about this. The instructor told him that he wasn't just the instructor, but that he owned the school. And suddenly it made sense to Anthony. He quickly did the math, multiplied the number of students by the price of the course, and factored in how many courses per year were taught, and he saw the potential. One day I'm going to open a real estate office, buy a bunch of buildings, start a construction company, and renovate the buildings, open a real estate school, recruit all my friends and family to come work for me, and become a success story. The first step was getting his real estate license, which he did. The second was finding a broker he could work for. Once licensed, he went to work for the biggest company in Brooklyn. There he learned the business and started to love it. About a year later, he left and started looking for a sponsoring broker in the prestigious neighborhood of Brooklyn Heights. So he spoke to every broker that would listen and was turned down time and time again. He was looked at as being too young and inexperienced for the highly competitive real estate world of Brooklyn Heights. He finally stumbled upon a raggedy old office on the 2nd floor where he walked in and an old man told him 2 things: that he wasn't hiring and that everyone was suing him. Despite what appeared to be a negative start, Anthony's strong desire to get his foot in the door in that neighborhood drove him to convince the old man to sponsor him, which he did with one condition. He told Anthony, "Here's the deal, it's 50-50. But when I say 50%, I mean 50% of everything. 50% of the commission and 50% of the bills." Anthony took the deal. He started working in Brooklyn Heights and quickly became one of the busiest agents in the area. He went on to assemble a group of 9 agents to work for the company. The broker eventually showed his true colors and put stop payments on the agents' commission checks. Eventually they all left, and he did the same to Anthony, which forced him to leave and contemplate his future. Anthony now found himself debating on whether to work for another firm or to take the advice his mother had given him, which was to open his own office. He took his mother's advice and started looking for spaces. Initially he was going to rent a space in Brooklyn Heights, but his mother again wisely advised him to stop looking for commercial spaces to lease. She told him that the money he would be spending for rent he could easily buy a building in another neighborhood. So he started looking for buildings, and one day while driving home he stopped at a red light, looked over to his right and saw a man posting a for sale sign on a property on 4th Avenue and 21st Street. Anthony, doing what all good real estate brokers should do, got out of his car and spoke to the guy who happened to be the owner and got the listing. After touring the property, he saw the potential, and despite it being located in an area that was a bit further out than he wanted it to be, he thought it could work well for him both as an investment property and for the purpose of setting up an office on the ground level commercial space. The building needed a lot of work, and because he could not afford to hire expensive contractors, he learned construction by hiring day laborers and watching them and working alongside them. He found himself being a real estate agent by day and contractor by night. But all that hard work would soon pay off. Little did he know that this would be the future home of one of the most successful rental companies in New York City. Up next, Anthony gets Rapid Realty up and running, and months later suffers a traumatic setback that would force most people to throw in the towel. Anthony's resilience pushes him to bounce back, and he expands his real estate portfolio. He grows the company, then goes on a media blitz and puts Rapid on the map. When he started Rapid Realty, Anthony did exactly what he once said he would do. He recruited his closest friends and family, helped them get licensed, and they all worked for him in a small office on the first floor at 681 4th Avenue. The office was modest, with carpeting and just one computer that they all shared. Anthony's focus was split between running the office and expanding his real estate portfolio. A year after opening the office, he purchased a property from a former client of his. He spent all his money and much time and effort getting the building into shape to get the most rent out of it. After negotiating the buyouts of the tenants he inherited, he was able to gut renovate the place and eventually found new tenants for each apartment. But just 3 months after completing the project, a tragic accident occurred. One of his tenants had a candle fall down while sleeping that made the apartment catch fire, and the building was ablaze. Sadly, the young lady didn't survive. Anthony recalls the scene as frantic. There were 5 ambulances, police all around, and representatives from all the local television stations. The media was looking to place blame on him, suggesting that he was a slumlord. It soon came to light that the building had 24 smoke detectors and that the incident was a heartbreaking accident. But the event left Anthony rattled and nearly broke. The fire left the building uninhabitable. With no rental income and a year-long wait for insurance money, he was back to hustling real estate by day and contracting by night. Anthony took the next several years after the fire to focus on expanding his real estate portfolio. He bought several properties in the Park Slope and Park Slope South neighborhoods. With each of these properties, he bought out existing tenants and made substantial renovations. With this time, he was also able to grow his company from 5 to over 60 agents by doing a $400,000 all-out marketing campaign with billboards, radio and TV ads, talk shows, internet trade shows, and more. Soon after this, he helped his parents start a real estate school on the second floor of his office and quickly ran out of space and was forced to move it to one of his properties in Park Slope South. After moving the school, he purchased a home in Bay Ridge and began a multi-million-dollar gut renovation of it, turning it into the dream home he had promised his mother years before. It was around this time he decided to remodel the look and size of the Rapid Realty office by expanding the second floor to accommodate the growth and give the entire office a more modern look. Following this growth spurt, Anthony began discussing the route he wanted to take his company. Just as the company was starting to go through a real growth spurt, his father passed away in November 2006. It was bittersweet for Anthony to watch the company grow and yet know that his father wasn't allowed to witness it. Following the passing of his father, Anthony went through a series of trials and tribulations where it seemed that something negative was happening to the company back to back to back. It went from losing his father to the entire database of listings crashing and losing years of data, to losing agents to competitors and then having to deal with multiple people conspiring to leave the company and go against him. At the end of 2007 and early 2008, Rapid Realty went through one of its toughest times in its history. 4 of Rapid Realty's top agents decided to leave the company and take what they learned and start their own firms, essentially becoming direct competition. The breakup wasn't a good one. These individuals formed an unofficial alliance whose sole mission was to prove to the world that they could all survive and do well without Rapid Realty's backing. When they left the company, they recruited dozens of agents with them, offering high commission splits and purposely giving unheard of benefits that made these agents want to go work for them. Several smear campaigns were launched against Rapid Realty where hundreds of fraudulent negative reviews and negative blogs were being posted. Propaganda was spread to landlords to try and prevent them from wanting to list with Rapid, and they continually targeted Rapid Realty agents. Text messages, emails, and invitations to events were being sent to agents in an effort to recruit them. Their number eventually grew from 4 to 7 offices. Despite their efforts, Rapid Realty remained a force in the industry and continued to operate unfazed. Throughout the turmoil, Anthony remained confident and continued to push forward and make Rapid Realty an even stronger company than it was before. The changing of the guard created new opportunities for other individuals to step up and take leadership positions within the company, and ultimately an entirely new Rapid Realty team was created. Anthony's refusal to participate in what would have been a never-ending propaganda battle allowed him to focus his energies on growing the company and taking on more professional help. Rapid Realty took some blows from the onslaught attack of the competitors and yet continued to grow, and they even launched an apology letter to the public announcing that they would have a renewed focus on customer service and creating a better customer experience. The new Rapid Realty was much more technology-driven and much more pro-rental agent. New commission structures were created and new recruiting initiatives were launched. Now the focus shifted to keeping their new talent and providing them with a realistic growth strategy. Anthony reached a crossroads where he wanted to expand the company but wasn't sure which way to do it. One day when meeting with a friend who owns a rubbish removal company, he told Anthony that he should strongly consider going the franchising route when choosing his expansion plan. Anthony took his advice and went on to doing research and eventually hired a consulting firm that helped him become a franchisor. He now knew he had the opportunity to offer his top people the chance to become business owners under the Rapid Realty umbrella and didn't have to worry about them leaving and becoming his competition like in the past. At 30, he moved into his dream home after spending an additional $1.6 million in renovations. He finally gave his mother the white mansion he had promised her 24 years earlier. He also flew to Chicago to learn about franchising and grew Rapid Realty to well over 100 agents. Within the next year, he opened up his test pilot office at 600 Franklin Avenue and started discussions of aggressive expansion. He hired a full-time videographer and launched multiple videos for the website. After that, he began to push to open his first real franchise office located in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, which was shortly followed by the franchise in Clinton Sty. By the end of 2009, Anthony had stayed true to his promise he made in the Executive Real Estate magazine 4 years ago and has opened offices in 4 of the 5 boroughs.
After planting the Rapid Realty flag all over New York City, he went on to expand the company into New Jersey and Long Island. Rapid Realty's expansion took on a life of its own. Anthony's resilient spirit got him through all adversities, including facing betrayal and defamation from his own team members in 2008, and replacing them with a new breed of stronger, better leaders who helped take the company to the next level. The vision that Anthony had was becoming a reality right before his eyes. Rapid Realty started monopolizing the rental market as offices started popping up everywhere. In every desirable neighborhood you can think of, a new Rapid Realty opened up. Anthony had accomplished everything he had set out to do years ago. He grew his real estate company into the biggest and best rental company in New York City. His relentless passion and limitless drive to monopolize all markets continues to push him forward with his eyes set on national and global expansion. If the past is any indication of the future, one can only imagine what heights a visionary like Anthony Lolli can reach.